Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final interview for the Top 10 Inspiring Women series. Super excited today to introduce Sharon Kelly Hake, the founder of Great Dames, an organization which has helped me personally a ton over the last couple of years as I've grown as a professional and a business owner, and I've met some really amazing women. And to be quite honest, I've kind of imitated Great Dames' style of events and setting up events. So I have learned a ton from this woman. Instead of going on for a long time, I'm just going to go right to Sharon. Sharon, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your background?
Sure. Hi, Jen. I'm great to be here and talk with all of you today. And I'm complimented. Wow, I didn't realize that you were getting so much from your experience, but that delights me greatly because that's the whole point of Great Dames. I'm Sharon Kelly Hake, founder of Great Dames. We're a community of women who believe in our power to create change. And we do that by supporting one another to discover that power, to discover our value and discover our purpose. So I love what I do. I've been doing this the last 12 years. That followed a 30-year career in corporate America. But the dames that I've met worldwide as a result of this experience has been such an enriching experience. So that's really my intro, is that I'm surrounded by dames, and it's a great way to live.
I actually just thought of like three more questions to add to your sheet, but we'll see if we have time for those. Okay. Well, and I'm sure this revolves around Great Dames, but what change do you want to see in the world, and how are you aiding that cause?
Yes, Great Dames has everything to do with the change I want to see. I want to see a world where there's complete, unequivocal gender equity. I want to see a world where all women have the same opportunities as men to get an education, advance their career, receive promotions, personal and professional power in relationships. That's so important. Access to wealth and resources. But the most important thing I want to see is a world where women are valued for their ideas, and they're supported in ways that enable them to advance their ideas, to create powerful change. I love the quote, the African proverb that says, when you educate a boy, you're educating an individual. But when you educate a girl, you educate a community, a village. And that is how I feel about Great Dames. We're a village, and we are here to support one another. And I'm a big reader of Nicholas Kristof. And he and his wife have done tremendous amount of research. And when a woman gains their voice in society, there is actual evidence of less violence. And we know all the stats about how businesses are run more effectively and they're more profitable. But when you think about that, that you're talking about respect and value. And that comes from the voice of women. And we see it over and over and over again in terms of the handling of the pandemic. Just women's leadership styles are so powerful and so needed. So I want that. I want that for men as well as women, and for the children that we are, the children of the next generation and future generations. So that's the change I want to see in the world, because I know it's good for everybody. I believe that. And I see it every day in the Great Dames community.
That is amazing. And I feel like it's silly to even ask this question, but for the men, or for people who have somehow not been affected by this, I know all of the women watching are going to laugh that I even asked this. What challenges do you see women facing in their work and in society that men may not be aware of?
Well, many, but I think the simple way to just boil it down for men would be to simply take the time to listen and ask their women colleagues, friends, women in their lives, to say, tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what's going on in your life. And really listen to the response. What ideas do you have that you would like to advance? And this is a really important one. How can I help you? How can I help you? There's a study that I often refer to that says 88% of men want to help women in the workplace, their women colleagues, but less than 20% have bothered to sit down with a woman colleague to ask how could they be helpful. Because so therefore they really don't know how. And so what I'm suggesting is that men and women enter into co-mentoring relationships, because I think there's a lot that men can learn from women that they just don't realize. And I realize that's maybe an indirect way of answering your question, but what I'm suggesting to you is the reason there are so many issues and challenges in the workplace that men and others are not aware of is because they haven't bothered to ask for any kind of input or ask their women colleagues at a deeper level, what's going on with you? How can I be supportive? And by the way, what ideas do you have that I could support? Amplify their ideas in the room, as opposed to disagreeing or over speaking, over talking, but say, you know what, Jen, I hadn't thought about it that way. That's a really good idea. And here's how I would add to that. So it's not a question of, oh, we all have to agree. It's a question of how do we actually spark each other's imagination, but how do we show enough respect to actually enable that to happen? And if somebody sat back and just really was a third eye and looked in on the exchange inside a typical meeting room, they might be shocked. They may be shocked to see that it's just not happening. Those conversations are not happening. We had an event recently at Great Dames all about male allies. And we had men on the panel, women on the panel in the room. A ton of men showed up for that. And we asked this question about how many of you have actually sat down with a female colleague to meet with them in a mentoring situation, or just a colleague to colleague conversation around helpfulness. How can we help each other? And very few of them, these are men that showed up to a Great Dames event. We're talking single digit number of hands went up. So just simple strategies like listening and talking and connecting, engaging on an equal level about how we can help each other be successful would go such a long way towards creating a much more productive and effective workplace for both men and women, and frankly, in the community. This goes for boards. This goes for personal relationships. Asking the question, how are you doing? What am I doing to either help you, or how am I getting in your way? And these are questions, these are conversations that have to happen for us to get to a deeper level of understanding of what's going to work, what's going to make all of us more effective.
So I'm going to transition from that into tell us about a project or accomplishment that you consider to be the most significant in your career.
Well, I think it has to be that we launched Great Dames. I did this with my daughter, Heather. She was my our co-founder. And then we brought my other daughter into the organization, Deirdre, and we launched Great Dames with the understanding that we felt like this was really going to be something very important and very powerful, but we really had no idea for sure, because we didn't know of any other organization quite like it. I mean, the reason we launched it is we were looking for something that was missing. And I'm very proud of it because this followed a rather successful career that I guess I could have continued. But I really realized, I looked in the mirror one day and I said, there's virtually no social value to what I'm doing right now. I mean, I'm making the shareholders of this company wealthier with what I'm doing, but I'm not helping anyone else. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do it. And frankly, if it weren't for the encouragement of my daughters, who basically held my feet to the fire and said, Mom, you've been talking about doing this for a long time. I had the business plan, I had the name, I had the URLs, I had the trademark.
Wow.
Great Dames, and I still couldn't leave until they said, all right, if you do this, we'll help you. We'll do this with you. And what could I say? I'm a mother. I couldn't say, well, I didn't really mean any of that. Because of course, I'm asking them to pursue what they know they need to pursue. So we launched Great Dames right during the middle of a major recession in 2009. And it turned out to be the single most important thing I've ever done in my life, other than have children, I think. I am so proud of how we've evolved. And I know it's because of the women in the community. We didn't do this on our own. We did this with the other games. They supported us and carried us through this whole process and embraced other women, brought other women into the community. So I'm really proud of the work of the Great Dames and our ability to help facilitate that. Because in the end, you need someone who's facilitating, not leading so much, but facilitating, enabling the connective tissue, but it was all about the women in the community. So I'm so proud of what those women and the women continue to accomplish. And that's my greatest point of pride. And this was, again, after a year of a career of, success and awards and that kind of thing. None of those mean anything to me, quite frankly. The promotions and all that. Why? I mean, this is so much more meaningful to have a conversation with a woman in the community who said, that last conversation we just had, that meeting we just had, that peer group meeting, it changed my life. I now know with greater clarity what I need to do. I can't even imagine anything more important than that. So that's what I feel. But the greatest is yet to come, because we want to keep growing. So maybe that might have been my greatest, but the greatest is that the community keeps growing and we continue to embrace younger women, aspiring dames, women from around the globe who are living in communities where they're just being so suppressed. Their voice is being attempted to be suppressed. And these women are stepping up and saying, we're not going to shut up. We are going to say what we need to say, and we're going to take those risks because no one else will. And if we can help one woman gain the courage, or any group of women to do that, I feel such a sense of accomplishment. And any way that we can be supportive of those women is so important. And that's what Dames do. We support those women.
I love that you mentioned that. Just in Friday's meeting, when we were doing the circles, the one woman was introduced and she was trying to end child marriages in another country.
I know. It's like, we're worried about what we're going to eat for dinner,
Yeah. How did the organization make the jump? I imagine it started fairly local. How did it make the jump to the point where it's now international?
That's a great question, because that was sort of always in the game plan, but it was one of those things we were always going to do someday. And so we did start local. We actually launched in Delaware, and we quickly added a Philadelphia chapter, because there's a lot of, we tend to draw immediately from about 6 states, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, Maryland, DC, and even New York. So we were kind of a mid-Atlantic organization with a strong footing in Delaware and Philadelphia. But we were getting a lot of requests from people, because our database was always global. And like, what about a chapter here? We want a chapter in Singapore or India, and we were like, well, okay, well, and our events were always, 5:30 at night, so that wasn't going to work. And so we always believed we were a high touch, high impact organization. So therefore we had this mindset that it needed to be in person. And I was getting a lot of requests from people who were interviewing me or us for podcasts and stuff. Why don't you create content for other people, for people to use in other time zones in other countries? I said, no, it needs to be a high touch, high impact. So it was a mindset thing, and our board was kind of on that same wavelength, And then guess what happened? COVID hit. And we had a whole year's worth of programming with a global, it turned out to be global, with a conference and everything that we had planned. And we said, how are we going to do all this in a high touch impact way? And guess what? We held our first meeting. We had sold out a meeting that was in person at Harry's. And we said, what are we going to do with all those people that have tickets? So we just converted the whole thing into a virtual event. And I could see it and feel it. The high touching and high impacting was going on. That's what women do. Women want to reach, even if it's across the screen, women want to support each other so badly that they are connecting at deep levels, even in a virtual environment. I never thought it was possible, would have been possible. So from there, we got the courage and we started adding more events. And again, they were mostly locally based speakers. And most of the draw was from the Mid-Atlantic region, or, Delaware and Philadelphia. But then we started to get requests for chapters. So we added a chapter in Rochester and upstate New York, New Jersey. We had a national virtual chapter and a global virtual chapter. I think we're up to 7 now. And people came. We have a whole cluster of young women from Bangladesh, from Nepal, from Haiti, from Nigeria, from Europe, several European countries, England. We have a long, strong presence there. And so I think they're clustered and they hope to see each other in person someday. But right now we're doing everything virtually. And it doesn't seem to matter, and we're changing our events to different times to accommodate different people. So it really happened in the last year. We tripled in size. Our community tripled. And in fact, we're actually, by the end of this year, we think we'll be quadrupled in size. And we were never going to be able to attract the diversity from, particularly from a cultural background and age. We have 5 generations of women that attend our events, from digital natives to boomers. And I think the thing that's been fascinating, and you can speak to this too, Jen, because you've been to a number of our events, the richness of the conversation. We always had, I thought, very rich conversations and pretty deep and meaningful, but the depth and the richness of being, like you say, the young woman courageously talking about what she's going to do to impact child, and help women, get out of being a child bride. And we have another group in Bangladesh talking about domestic violence, and it's not even a crime in Bangladesh. And in fact, when it goes reported, nothing happens. So they have a very creative strategy, funded by Great Dames, by the way. Women stepped up, and I think a bunch of women stepped up, and they now have a sizable grant from Great Dames to support this. And these are major, major issues impacting women. And if we can help them in some way move that needle, move that mark, or at least help them see that they do have the power in their own relationships to demand what they need. And then they're role models then for their little sisters, or they're the other young women in their lives. So I am so darn proud of these women that have stepped up and said, yeah, I'm going to take this one on, because I know that I have some women at my back. And I know it needs to happen, and it's not going to happen without me or with the women in my community supporting me.
That's amazing. And I didn't realize how much the organization had grown recently.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was in a peer circle, but I wasn't attending all the events until this past year. So I didn't realize that there weren't as many before that. So I've talked to so many people lately about like pandemic silver linings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's such a great story. Okay, well, I'll transition us to the next question. How do you define success?
I define success when I end each day. All those of us and I'm sure you do this too. Every morning I look at my to-do list and what do I need to accomplish today? And then what am I going to accomplish this week? And what's going on, further out, next month or two. And we're actually planning our entire 2021 schedule. So when you're running a company, you're always even looking a year out. But the most important thing to do is every single day, at the end of the day, saying to myself, I say to myself, all right, what did I actually do today to create an impact on someone? How did I make life better for someone? How did I help someone find that spark of confidence that they so desperately needed? We all need that, by the way. How did I help someone see their value? Who did I reach out to that didn't expect to have that experience? Or maybe if they did, was I successful? Was I successful in sparking her imagination? And you could see it in their eyes. You could see it, even if it's a Zoom call, right? And you could see the person go, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I was feeling really discouraged. I was feeling really low, or I was just feeling confused, and now I see what I need to do. Not that I would ever provide the answers, because I don't have the answers. She has the answers, right? So success means that I do that every single day. I ask myself that question at the end of every day. And if I don't have a good answer, I need to rethink that to-do list, right? I need to rethink how I spend my time. So it's the impetus for the next day, or it's not too late, maybe if it's 10 o'clock at night, can you send a text or an email to somebody saying, I've been thinking about you. How's that project going? How's that relationship going? Do you want to talk about it? And to me, that's what women do really well. By the way, I've learned all this from the other dames. Okay. So I get inspired because I know people are reaching out to me and wow, I think I just had a little mentoring experience that I wasn't expecting to have. That feels good. I'm not so alone on this. And it's so important because we don't want to do this alone. It's not fun. It's harder. If we do it together, it's a much richer outcome. It's more fun. And, I'm in a better place. So that's kind of how I define as success.
Yeah, amazing answer, by the way. I'm over here thinking, what is my question that I ask myself every day? I don't know, but I'm going to think of some.
I'm sure you ask yourself a lot of good questions.
I also ask myself a lot of bad questions.
We all do. We all do. That's why it's good. It's always good to test it, test yourself with someone else who's going to help you with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about an obstacle or a turning point that you faced in your career and how you pushed through it and what you may have learned from it.
I think the hardest thing was for me to leave. I wouldn't call it a comfortable corporate career, but it certainly was, on paper anyway, successful. I was traveling all over the world. I was involved in some really, really fascinating work, acquisitions and that kind of thing, and divestitures, but really, really interesting marketing and whole new product development efforts. And I gave it up because I saw a pattern. I interviewed women. While I was doing all this, I thought, what the heck, I might as well pursue my interest, which is how do women lead? What makes women successful? So I interviewed women from all walks of life: scientists, engineers, teachers, board chair, volunteers, and to a person. And some of these women were running major companies. They talked about feeling not that they were not heard, that they were undervalued, dismissed, ignored, talked over, that they were not getting the level of opportunities that they felt they deserved and worked towards. And I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. So I said to myself, okay, if this is happening to women who I'm interviewing because I admire who they are and what they stand for, and I'm learning from them. I wanted to emulate their leadership styles. It must be happening because I was certainly feeling it. I was thinking, wow, this is happening to all of us. So the hardest thing was to face the truth that I needed to do something about this. That was hard because it was a heck of a lot easier just to stay in that. I wouldn't call it a cushy job, but it was a job I was doing well and, being rewarded for. So I had to face the truth that I needed to step into the unknown and try to create something that actually might be helpful. I wasn't sure it would be. In fact, I interviewed a bunch of people where I was working, including, the CEO, and said, what do you think about this? And they were like, you're crazy. Why in God's name would you do this in the middle of a recession? And what do you think you can do? I mean, they weren't trying to be condescending, not at all. I mean, they knew me well enough to know I was going to give it everything I had, but it was like, do you really want to do this? And I said, yeah, I don't have a choice now. It had gotten to the point where I didn't have a choice, and emotionally and intellectually, And so I took that leap. That was the hardest part, was taking that leap. Because I didn't want to be delusional. I wanted this to actually work, and I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. I mean, it was the best leap I ever took. It's the best thing I have ever done. And I'm still taking that leap every day, though. I mean, the leap never stops. I mean, I'm still not at the other end of that cliff. I'm still like, I can see it though. I'm like trying to get there. But one of the things about being an entrepreneur, and this, Jen, is you're always on that leap. You never get to rest. Because you've got to constantly be pushing it. What's better? How can we embrace more? What do women really need now? Versus what they needed 12 years ago, which is when we started Great Dames. It's a completely different world for women right now. A lot of progress, but also a lot of places of, potential need. Let me just turn this thing off here. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Package delivery.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy, this is what happens.
Yeah.
So
Well, do you
anyway,
need to get a package?
I'm not going to. Nope.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. It was probably something my husband ordered. Anyway, did I just screw that whole thing up? Do you want me to repeat something?
No. I think, well, and your answers have lots of good stuff in them. They have lots of layers. So we probably are going to edit them down. So I think it's fine. Yeah.
So I apologize for that.
No, that's okay.
I turned off my phone. I turned off everything. I told my husband, leave me alone. But I forgot about the little intercom.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I have someone coming to clean my house later, and I'm like, don't come yet. Don't come yet.
Yeah, exactly.
If you come now, I'm going to make you wait outside.
Yeah.
So can I ask a self-interested question?
Sure.
Okay, so you're talking about the need for being motivated every day and taking the leap every day.
Right.
There's got to be a point where the motivation is low. So how do you keep pushing through?
That's a really good question. I would say, to be honest, I'm going to be brutally honest, fear of failure. I am not going to fail. Because all those people that said you're crazy, that was the best thing they could have done to me, because I am not crazy and I am not going to fail. And so there are days, this is, it's exhausting running your own company. And it's exhausting doing, working for a company too. So I'm not suggesting I own all the exhaustion, but it can be very exhausting and lonely when you're the CEO of a company, And when I feel low, I say to myself, okay, what's the most important thing that I need to focus on right now? What's the most important thing? Let all that crap that's getting me down, Like, I don't like all the counting and bookkeeping stuff, which I don't do, but even giving it to someone to do was a headache, right? Any of the stuff that doesn't bring me a lot of joy and fun, I said, I'm not doing that today. I'm focusing on the highest impact thing I can do. And when that happens, the energy that comes from that is unbelievable. I mean, the energy is fabulous. That's what feeds my soul. It gives me the adrenaline push I need to get myself out of my place of, oh God, I just can't do this, keep doing this, And even, a lot of it is that spark. You pick up the phone and you call I got a note the other day. Okay, this is something I highly recommend to you, Jen, and anybody who's listening to this. I got an email note from a young woman who I talked to 10 years ago. Okay. And she said, I just want you to know that I still think about that conversation. And I'm at work and I'm having a tough time, but I'm digging deeply. And you gave me the confidence in myself that I didn't have at that time. I had no confidence. I was so beaten down by stuff that had happened in my life. And she'd had a really tough time of it, that I had no confidence. And she said, you helped me find it. And she said, today I'm doing really well. I have a big, really great career going. Family situation is great. And she said, I have confidence. And I just want to say thank you. And I printed that note out. Okay, this is my tip. You print those out, okay? Because when you're having a bad day, you read that. 10 years later, I almost cried. I think I did, actually. So don't underestimate the power of a single conversation. I had one conversation with that woman. One. Don't underestimate your power to change somebody's life in a single conversation. So that's what I do when I'm low. And I just say, I can't do this anymore. Is I remind myself why I'm doing it. Why I'm doing it. And that when I got that note, and by the way, it doesn't have to be, it could be some other mechanism, thank you. I was thinking about what we said, but that note, I got more from that note, I guarantee you, than she ever got from me, right? Because I now know, okay, well, all right, there's a reason for us to be doing all this stuff, and my confidence went up. She gave me confidence. So that's what's so empowering. We're now co-mentoring each other. This is not about this old lady being smart and figuring out what you need to do. Oh no, it's definitely the other way around for me right now. And Jen, because we've had some real young women step up, speakers even, that are, one was 17 years old, but because of her wisdom that she's earned from her lifetime of experiences in 17 years, our jaws were all dropping, and we're writing the stuff down that she's telling us, her mantra and everything, because it's so helpful and it's so meaningful. So write it down. I mean, when someone says, you get a note from somebody, print that thing out. I know people don't print anymore. So put that on your bulletin board, or keep a folder, because sometimes we do need reminding of why we do what we're doing. And it's rarely the paycheck, quite frankly, that helps. Okay, got to pay the bills. But it's oh my God, you really helped my company, like what you do. You really helped me personally. You helped my company. I'm now able to, grow and expand in ways that I never thought. I'm getting clients that I never thought I would get. Thank you, Brand Swan. That's really important, to remind yourself.
All right, I'm going to squeeze in one last question.
Okay.
If you could go back and share some wisdom or guidance with your younger self, what would that be?
Could I do two things? Because there's one really important one, and then there's two both important things. One is always ask for feedback. Always. and ask feedback from people that it may be a little tough to ask that question, right? And listen, really listen for the patterns and the responses that you get from people. And use that feedback to change your attitudes and behaviors. Because when you do that, you become so much more self-aware and so much more effective as a leader, as a person. And it took me too late to learn that. And not too late, but pretty late in my career before I realized the value of feedback. So I highly recommend that right at the starting gate to do that. Even people in your personal life, not just your professional life. I ask my daughters for feedback every year, and they're tough, but they give it to me with love, so I know I need to listen. The other is do what you love. Do what you love and make your mark. In other words, do what you love in a way that you make your mark. And you will always do that in a way, in order for it to be successful, you will find a way to make a living from it, to get paid for it, because if it's the right thing to do and you're making your mark, there is an audience for your work. There are people who will be impacted by your work in really meaningful ways. And so my strong piece of advice is to do that and not follow some path that you think you're supposed to do, something that's like a little something in your head that some teacher told you, or a parent, or just somebody in your life who would prefer you to do something that is better for them, and I had a fantastic role model in my father, who always told, we had 7 children in our family, and he told us 7 kids, do what you love, and the money will follow. But you know what? We didn't listen, all of us. We did what we thought we were supposed to do, right? And it took me until very late in my career, I was 30 years in, when I realized, wait a second, I don't see myself as making an impact here. And so therefore, I don't love it. I don't love what I'm doing. And so I strongly recommend that you really look at what's the impact you want to create? What do you love doing? And how can you make money at it? You need to find the intersection of those 3 things. That's the advice I would give my younger self that I didn't follow, and until I was 50, and then I finally had the courage to do it. But it was really my daughters that gave me that courage, and so that would be what I would strongly recommend, because you do have there is a reason for you being here, and you do have a purpose, and it's important for you to discover that and activate it, because we need you to activate your purpose. We need you to activate your great thingness.
Yay. I'm like taking notes now. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up. Any other questions that you wanted me to get to that I didn't?
No, except that we would love for who's ever listening to this to jump on our website, come to some of our events. If you're a member, they're free. If not, it's like $10 or something, a donation. But more importantly, we want to create access. We do have scholarships, membership scholarships for people who particularly during COVID, things are tough. We really want to embrace you. If you want to be part of what we're doing, we would love to have you in our community. And so jump in, join us, give us a taste. And if you like it, stay, but more importantly, we want to hear your ideas. That's why we would like to welcome you into our community.
Yay. Okay, perfect. I had a couple interviewees that I had to urge them on for the call to action. I'm like, okay, what do you want people to do? You do something, right? You have a business. What do you want them to do about it?
Right, exactly. I wasn't going to miss that opportunity. You threw me a softball, and I was going to take it.
Yeah.
I do feel really badly about the interruption. I mean, do you want to re-record that? I don't even remember what I was saying. It was something about taking.
I think you had like 2 kind of complete thoughts before we
Yes.
even got
Okay.
interrupted. So I think it's going to be very easy to kind of chop it up.
Okay. I really feel badly about that because I was so careful to undo all that.
No, it's okay. This is very casual. We had a couple
Mhm.
interviews with like doorbells and people
Yeah.
walking in the background. Like
Yeah.
you'll be one of the more polished ones.
I don't know. Not after that. I mean, I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you
So,
so much.
well, thank you for the work you're doing, though, because I'm really excited about your work because I could see basically every Great Dane benefiting from what you're doing. In other words, it's one thing to be part of a peer group and a powerful conversation, but the intense sort of personal branding piece requires a level of specification, customization, you know, et cetera. So I think it's really important what you're doing. I mean, you're doing it for companies, but I'm gathering you're also doing it for individuals.
Yeah, well, we're trying to.
Yeah, yeah, right. Well, what's the trick on that one, though? Women desperately need this. Here's the hump that you have to get over. Women do not like to invest in themselves. They don't think they
Oh.
deserve it. They don't think they deserve it. And men would not, oh, yeah, Brand Swan, is that for me? I'm in, I need that, and what's it, $100,000? I'm worth it, but women don't believe they deserve just like spa days. Oh my God, you kidding me? They maybe do that once in a lifetime, or it's we deserve to invest in ourselves, and that's a huge hurdle to help women overcome. So, I mean, that's been my observation anyway.
Yeah. No,
You know,
I will agree with that because I was doing some coaching slash therapy, kind of somewhere in
right,
between the
right.
two. And she just said like, you do a good job. And I'm like, thank you for saying
Exactly.
that. Like it's so hard to just hear
Yes.
kind words and be nice to
Yeah.
myself. All those things are very difficult.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But hey, write that down.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Let's see. I've got self-care is not selfish. And
Yeah.
then yeah, I've got a
That's
few
right.
other notes.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really important. And so that's what I love seeing. I love seeing um, just that spark and say, wait a second. I'm one of those women that's worth a damn, that has damn good ideas. It never occurred to me to claim ownership of those, you know? And
Yeah.
that is so important. Nobody wants to be around oh, I'm not very good. Well, then who wants to be around you? Don't say that. You are fantastic if you just unleash it and you can see it for yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Can we use this part here with the
Yeah.
I have damn good ideas. Okay. I like, oh,
Sure.
she's unleashing the curse
Yeah.
words.
Why not? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes we get a little frustrated with people. Like, I'm going to shake them,
Oh, I love it though. It's like the authenticity, like you can feel
Yeah.
it. This is
Yeah.
pure emotion. This is not practiced.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Great.
I do have to go, but thank you
Okay.
so much. This has been amazing. And I'm like, obviously this is good for our series, but I've got
Yeah.
notes for myself. And I
Well,
don't think I've ever gotten to talk to you one-on-one. So I really enjoyed this
I know,
experience.
me too. And I'm so, so happy that you're part of our, an inner circle, being part of the peer group. You have a fabulous peer group, of course.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so I love seeing your beautiful face when you show up for our events, because I know then you'll have something really cool to say. And I just love what you're doing with Brand Swan. I just think it's so important. And I will think of, I'd like you to think of ways for, maybe send me your ideal, customer. I'm sure you've got like a persona, or, ideal client, for Brand Swan services, both on the personal level and on the company level. And I'll give some thought to who in the Great Dames community would benefit, and maybe we can do some e-introductions.
thank you. I really appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, because there are a lot of women entrepreneurs in our community, but frankly, women trying to be more effective, and more impactful. And what better way to do that than to realize your power through your personal brand, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's huge.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. Have
Thanks,
an
Jen.
amazing day.
Take care. See ya.